What's up, party people, and welcome to an all-new episode of Just Three with Joe. Of course, I'm your host, Mr. Joe Cardoza. As always, got an exciting show lined up for everybody this week. I am joined by the author of From Hang Time to Prime Time, Mr. Pete Croatto. Pete and I are going to discuss his book, his passion of the NBA and basketball, and we're also going to talk about a little bit other things with sports as well. Super dope conversation. I am excited for this one. Let's jump right into it. And like we do every week on Just Three with Joe, another exciting guest lined up for you. This gentleman is the author of From Hang Time to Prime Time, Business, Entertainment, and the Birth of the Modern Day NBA. He is an author, and we want to welcome at this time to Just Three with Joe, Mr. Pete Croatto.
Hey, Joe, how are you?
Doing pretty good about yourself, sir?
Not too bad. Just trying to recover from another day of childcare and working, but yeah, doing okay.
I understand that, and I definitely love the vintage Chicago Bulls hat as well. Props to you for that.
Thank you. Yeah. Also, I'm sorting the Mount Dunkmore Nike shirt.
Oh, that's a classic, man.
Yeah, I got this, believe it or not, at a flea market in Central Jersey, 10 years ago for like $8, and knock on wood, I haven't gotten a rash. It's held up really well. So yeah, I figured I'd come decked out in the proper gear for the interview today.
Much appreciated. Much appreciated. Well, hey, let's just jump right into it. Obviously, you are a mega NBA fan, passionate about the sport. I want to know, how'd that start? Like, how'd the passion and the love affair with the NBA begin for you?
Wow. I probably got into the NBA around 1990, 1991. I was I was a baseball fan to start with. I was a diehard New York Mets fan, grew up in central New Jersey.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, I know, exactly. I'm much healthier now. My spirits are better. I'm not breaking things. So I was a Mets fan, and then I kind of got into basketball because, well, for a couple of reasons. I was tall and started to play a little bit, and that kind of led me to kind of learning more about the NBA. And I think, like a lot of kids my age, I think I was 13 at the time, Michael Jordan was the guy.
Yeah.
So Michael Jordan was sort of, I'd watch Michael Jordan, I guess, on NBC or wherever. And then that kind of got me into, little by little, reading like the sports pages about the Knicks and the Bulls, the Nets. And then I got kind of hooked into the Knicks on MSG Network, which was the regional sports network in my neck of the woods. And then I got into NBA Inside stuff with Willow Bay and Ahmad Rashad. And
classic
that was it. Like, that was it. Once it was sort of like a how do I put it? Like a little by little, like a gateway drug. Like, I got a taste of this, then another taste, then another taste, and then I was like, I'm in. So by 1992, I was just full on NBA fan, and maybe my passion has waned a little bit as I've gotten older and responsibilities have mounted, but I'm still at my core, a giant, a really big basketball fan, and someone who just loves the history of the game and loves the game now. So yeah, it started about 30 years ago, believe it or not. So,
okay.
wow.
Very cool. Nothing wrong with that at all.
No.
So you said Michael Jordan was kind of the guy, obviously, when you were growing up. I remember that as well. Fun fact, because I liked all the teams that I thought could beat Jordan, I hate the man. I'm not a fan at all. I respect greatness, but I'm not a fan of his at all.
Joe, I'll tell you, I grew up, I was a Knicks fan for...
Oh, so
for most of my teens. And every spring, Michael Jordan would come and just piss on my spring. April come along feeling good. May would come along, and then Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, and John Paxson would just beat the ever-loving stuffing out of Patrick Ewing and John Starks. So I grew up detesting Jordan, to the point where I just couldn't stand him. It was the anger toward the man was visceral almost. And it's funny, and now I feel kind of bad about that, because he was such a great player and he was such a transcendent player. I couldn't enjoy that because I was too busy hating him, as a kid.
Yeah.
So, but now I've mellowed a little bit now. So now I'm kind of an NBA generalist. I'm just a fan of a good game. So I was able to watch the Bucks and Suns final, and enjoy Devin Booker, enjoy Chris Paul, but also enjoy Giannis and Chris Middleton and what they did. And it's just, I don't know, it's just how I am now as a, as an adult. But I don't know, are you like a fan now, or is that
The Last Dance kind of loosened me up a little bit, actually. As I watched that documentary of The Last Dance, I went from I hate you to kind of like dislike. I went from hate to dislike.
That's good.
I was able to basically kind of realize all the great moments he had. I mean, to leave the game and come back and do a three-peat again, the way he pushed his teammates, the way he just willed his team and himself to win. You got to respect that. I mean, you can say he crushed dreams of the Knicks. He crushed dreams of, I was a big Seattle Supersonics fan.
Yeah.
Oh, Sean Kemp and Gary Payton, not so much. Oh, Clyde Drexler and Terry Porter are going to win the NBA Finals. Not so much.
Yeah.
But watching The Last Dance and not being the 13, 14-year-old kid who just wants to see this team win, I was able to understand that, too, like people say, I was able to appreciate greatness pretty much.
Yeah, no, I think that's and that's kind of how I am now. Because if you look back, imagine being the guy, like you have a bullseye on your back every year for like 10 years. Like you're the guy that everyone's looking to take down. And now it's Michael Jordan. And every year he'd come back and would refine his game, get better. And he was just, he was just so relentless about it. Like everyone talks now about Kobe. Oh, well, Kobe was getting up at 4 a.m. and practicing. And look, that's great. But like, I don't know, Jordan was just, Jordan was just one of those guys who just, he was, this word is overused a lot, but he really was a warrior. He was the kind of guy that just would come up with ways to get a psychological edge to just beat you. And I think he fed off of that. As I got older and with time, I'm like, yeah, I definitely respected him. I respect him now, but back when I was a kid, oh man, I hated Michael Jordan. Hated him. But it's, I don't know. It's I guess that's one of the benefits of getting older. You mellow.
Yeah, for sure.
So.
one of my favorite moments from my childhood is that John Starks dunk on the Bulls. Because I was like, he didn't just dunk on the Bulls, he dunked on the whole city of Chicago. I held on to that moment for so long.
Oh, I saw that on TV. I remember I was in my den with my parents and my brother, and when that happened, we all just exploded. It was because that was the thing. If the Knicks didn't have moments like that, and you kind of thought once that happens, like, oh, this is the Knicks year.
Yeah.
And then, Charles Smith happens and here we are. But yeah, that is my favorite dunk of all time, I think. Just because, again, the sentimental value of it. And for a brief shining moment, the Knicks had the Bulls over a barrel. Like for a shining moment. But Jordan and Pippen and Phil Jackson, it wasn't going to happen with them. Just never happened.
Where are they now? Where are they now? Charles Smith. I wonder. That guy.
Charles Smith, actually, believe it or not, he's a financial advisor.
Really?
Yeah, he is.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, that's one way to get rid of the trauma of missing, 5, 6 layups. I mean, a couple of them got blocked, but a couple of those were just straight misses. That was one of the most incredible moments I've ever seen in an NBA game. Could not believe.
That's got to be awkward, though, if you're Charles Smith and you're sitting across the table from the desk from 2 new clients, and they're constantly reminding you about, dude, like...
Yeah, if it's a Knicks fan, that's got to be awkward.
I don't know where he's based, though. I mean, I know he was born in, I think, Connecticut, and I think he went to... what was he? I think a Pitt guy.
Yeah.
So
I think you're right, Pitt.
Yeah. So I don't know where he's based out of now, but like if he's based in the tri-state, in the New York, Connecticut, New Jersey area, I really hope that he has a good sense of humor about it, because that's like his defining moment, I think, as a player. It's just the 5 blocks and the strip or whatever. Yeah.
Because there's a lot of guys 35 years old and older that are not going to forget that moment at all. They're not going to forgive him. But when they see him, the trigger is going to be instant. So I hope he has a good sense of humor.
I think he does. You have to. I mean, you have to after that, But yeah, he's So that was kind of my genesis as a fan. Grew up watching those Knicks teams and kind of reading anything I get my hands on. So yeah, those are good times. I don't regret being a Knicks fan, because it teaches you about passion, and it taught me about being patient. So yeah.
Good point. I like that. That's a good one right there. So we go from being super passionate NBA fan, eats, sleeps, and drinks basketball, to wanting to write a book and
Yeah.
not just write a book, write about a book, a game about the game you fell in love with. How did
Mm-hmm.
that process come about of like, hey, this is what I want to do. I want to write a book. It's going to be about the NBA. Kind of walk me through how we went from a thought to on my local bookstore shelf.
Oh, wow. I mean, that's a long story. I'll try and keep it
Oh, we're good.
brief. Yeah. No, it's because like I didn't. It's weird because I didn't really get into sports writing right away.
Okay.
Like a guy, I went to college for journalism and always wanted to write, but I never really wanted to be a sports writer. Part of that was because when I worked at newspapers, the sports departments there always just sort of seemed like an island of misfit toys. Like I don't know what it was. There was just a suspended adolescence at the newspapers that I worked for in the sports departments, where I was like, I don't really know if this is really what I want to be. I don't know if I want to cover like, a high school baseball game like on a Saturday afternoon. I don't know if I want to be, working weekends. And the other thing too is that I read a book when I was in college called The Worst Team Money Could Buy about the 93 Mets, I think. 92 Mets, I'm sorry. And it was by John Halper and Bob Klapsich, who's now a writer at ESPN. He covers, I think, Major League Baseball.
Yeah,
and they talk about, and in the book they talk about their job as beat writers, writing for two of the New York tabloids, the Post and the News. I think my memory is hazy, but it was the two of the bigger papers in New York, and the job just sounded so unglamorous and just like so thankless. And I read that and I thought, you know what? I just really don't want to write about sports. I'm not really interested in that. It just seems like such a thankless, drudge-filled job. And so I decided to enter the fascinating world of trade magazine writing and municipal reporting for like 6 years. And so I did that. It just wasn't really my speed. So when I started freelancing, like in 2006, 2007, I started to write about sports. And because it was just, I had the time, it was a passion of mine. I thought, okay, well, there's a place to do reporting in sports because there's a lot more blogs now. Deadspin had come along and Grantland was around, and there seemed to be a real market for that. So I started to pitch sports stories to a variety of publications like the New York Times and other places, and things gained steam and things started to kind of accumulate. But what really was the turning point was I wrote a piece for Grantland about Marvin Gaye's national anthem at the 1983 NBA All-Star Game, 1983. I wrote that in 2013 around the 30th anniversary of the performance. And I wrote that piece and a couple of things happened. First, I loved the subject. I loved talking to all these old players and old executives. And it was just fascinating to me. And what happened was in doing the reporting, I noticed there was a lot of things on the cutting room floor that I could use. And I noticed that anthem really was sort of the halfway point or the turning point for the NBA becoming the NBA we know now. Because before then, the NBA was sort of this stodgy, I won't say stodgy league, but the NBA was sort of ashamed of its identity. It was trying to be baseball and football and be all things to everybody. But that anthem really started the NBA toward a path of, look, we're going to be the cool sport. We're going to be the sport that appeals to youth. We're going to be a sport that appeals to people that aren't me, middle-aged white dudes and their families. We're going to be different. We're going to be fun. We're going to cater to what's new and what's hip. And that anthem was the turning point. And I couldn't really get into that with, in 2,500 words. And I thought, like, there's a book here, and a couple of people that I'm close to said the same thing. And I thought, all right, well, let me work my way toward a book. So what I started to do was I started to work on stories that were built around the NBA's development as an entertainment industry and a business. So I wrote a piece about the first slam dunk contest for Slam. I wrote a piece about Salem Sportswear, which was this great character-driven sports line of sports apparel for Rolling Stone. And bit by bit, I started to kind of gain the pieces to write a book. And then, flash forward, 7, 8 years after that initial Grantland story, and the book behind me is written. So yeah, it was a matter of just, having this idea from this previous story that I did, wanting to build upon it, and wanting to find out more about what happened. How did the NBA get to this point where we get to Marvin Gaye performing the national anthem? So what happened before we got to that point? What happened after? So that's kind of what brought me here, was just, that curiosity to keep digging to see what I could find.
No, that's pretty awesome, actually. So I'm assuming then you probably have, man, some fantastic stories and people you got to talk to, whether it be ex-players,
Oh yeah.
executives in the league, people that were there during that process of the NBA going from not wanting to be the cool hip league to being the cool hip league it is today.
Definitely, yeah. I mean, the book is the book has over 300 interviews, original interviews with executives, players, folks from NBC Sports, CBS Sports, rappers. I mean, you name it. The goal with this book was to show the NBA's growth as a business and cultural behemoth. So that meant not just talking to players, not just talking to NBA executives, but kind of expanding the width and writing. And that means interviewing people that played roles in culture, music, clothing, the whole gamut. So to me, that's more than just, the NBA's rise. And I write about this in the book. We tend to kind of quickly summarize it as Magic Bird, Jordan Stern. Like that's when you talk about the NBA's rise to legitimacy. That's the shorthand. But what gets lost in that are the contributions of dozens, and literally dozens of people who are lesser known, who were not, on CBS Sports or NBC Sports being interviewed by everybody. Those people got lost in the shuffle. So folks like, Ted Shaker, who was the executive producer for CBS Sports, who kind of rejiggered and revitalized how the NBA was covered on television. He's an important part of the story. A guy like Bill Marshall, who turned apparel into this juggernaut by focusing on personality. We're talking about NBA Entertainment, which released all these great videos in the 80s that I'm sure you grew up with. I grew up with them. That kind of, provided that little taste for kids to kind of get in the league. Folks like Don Sperling on NBA Entertainment, Leah Wilcox. There are so many people in the NBA, in the NBA's history, I should say, who are overlooked. And that's what this book does. This book is sort of a tribute to the people that made the NBA great. And yes, Larry and Magic and Michael and David Stern are all in there, as they should, but their contributions have already been covered chapter and verse. So I decided to spend a little bit more time talking about the people who contributed to the NBA that who you may not know about. And that was really the fun part about this book, was to find out was to kind of learn about these people and their contributions, and also to give some more attention to Larry O'Brien, the former NBA commissioner, the guy who's we now know as the Larry O'Brien Trophy, the namesake. I wanted to learn more about him and his role in the NBA's ascension. So yeah, this book is really a treasure trove for people that are not only diehard NBA fans, but new fans who maybe want to learn a little bit more about the history. Maybe they only know about LeBron James, and maybe they know a little bit about Michael Jordan, but maybe they want to know more about how the NBA came to be. So I think this book really is perfect for a wide variety of readers. And the other thing too, if I can say, is that it's also readable. Like, I think if you can read it and enjoy it, it's not like homework. I didn't want to write a book that was going to feel like work.
Got you.
So that was my main goal. When I sat down to write this thing.
Nah, sounds awesome. I have to ask. I'm assuming I know the answer, but still, I want to hear from the horse's mouth. How excited were these people to finally get a chance to, number one, be recognized, but also number two, to tell their story? Because, like you said, if somebody asked me about the NBA, that's how I see it. It was Bird, there was Magic. Yeah. They put the NBA on the map. Then Jordan came, and then Kobe, LeBron, and so forth. But how excited were those people to finally have an opportunity to have their story heard and shared?
Yeah, it's a good question, Joe. Like, I don't know if they were excited. It's hard to say. Like, I don't know. It's not like anyone I called said, like, about damn time you talked to me.
I'm surprised, actually, nobody did that.
Yeah, no one really did that. I mean, that was the thing. No one really said, like, no one said that to me point blank. I will say this, though. The people I talked to and this is mostly for the NBA employees and the people associated with the NBA. They were more than happy to talk with me because for so many of these people, like working at the NBA was sort of like their college days. It's where they grew up. It's where they they made friendships that lasted a lifetime. David Stern was sort of like this gruff, lovable professor slash father figure who a lot of these young men and women gravitated around. The NBA back in the 70s and 80s really was a place where, like, if you were passionate about basketball and you wanted to work, like, you were in. Like, now, if you want to get a job at the NBA, forget it.
Yeah.
Like, you need, I don't know, like a letter from the Pope and, fairy dust and, a unicorn horn to get in. But back in the day, you could just be passionate about basketball and you could pretty much work there. And David Stern was sort of the guy that kind of like led that charge. He was sort of the guy who believed in the NBA, believed it could become this giant entertainment spectacle that the world could enjoy. And that attitude was infectious. So in talking to people, for this book, everyone was in on the ground floor. Like, everything was new. So like TV and cable were new. Apparel and shoes were new. The NBA as sort of this exciting league was a new concept. So people were happy to talk to me, I think, because it was a happy time in their life. And so that was very easy to talk to get people to talk to me, even though like I'm not a name. Like, I'm not Jack McCallum. I'm not, I'm not Woj. I'm not Shams. I'm just some dude, who is just very happy and lucky to make a living writing about what I love. So, but I think the fact that people were just happy to relive those days, because it was a fun, exciting time, whether you were working for CBS Sports or working at for the NBA or even working at Nike. There was just so much that was new that was happening and exciting that was happening. And Jack McCallum, the great Sports Illustrated writer, said it best to me. He said that he got a front row seat to the NBA's renaissance. Like, he was there for everything. He was there for Bird, Magic, Jordan, when everything was getting new and exciting and it was building steam. And I really think that attitude permeated to anyone that was in the NBA's orbit. So yeah, I mean, people I talked to were usually 9 times out of 10 really, really happy to talk with me. Some people wouldn't talk to me, didn't want to talk to me, but that's okay. I mean, I think the book isn't any weaker for their lack of participation.
Yeah, and one thing too, I just to listen to you talk and thinking about that I saw as a young person growing up during that time is how the NBA kind of went away from, for such a long time, it was the Boston Celtics versus the LA Lakers. And then when you started getting, I've definitely started first with CBS Sports, because I can remember you only watched the NBA on CBS Sports.
Yeah.
And then NBC did a really good job of it as well. And that is transitioning to talk about the star players. It became Larry Bird and the Celtics, Michael Jordan and the Bulls. So you'd watch Michael, and you might figure out, oh, that's Scottie Pippen. Oh, that's Horace Grant. But the main reason you were watching that game was to watch Patrick Ewing or to watch Larry Bird. And then along the way, you learned about the people that played in that team as well. But I think that transition from going to try to sell the team to selling the players, oh, yeah, and oh, by the way, their team, was a big switch in the NBA. Like, that's something I think, different sport, that's something I think MLB struggles with. They don't showcase their stars. They still think if they throw on a Boston Red Sox logo and a Yankee logo, you and I are going to tune in.
Yeah,
they don't talk about the players enough at all.
You're absolutely right, and the NBA's emphasis on stars was absolutely by design, and that was a David Stern concept that was born in the late 1970s. And the TV stations got involved in it. The apparel was part of it too. It was all about the stars, because because the way that I grew up as a fan is that I just, we're just talking right now, like, I gravitated toward Michael Jordan. I think a lot of kids, when they're new to a sport, they gravitate toward a player they like. Yeah. Then they can get into the team. Then they get into all the nuts and bolts. But when you're 8 years old, you're attracted to a person. I think a person grabs you into a game
Yep.
and captures your imagination. And the NBA understood that. The NBA understood, David Stern specifically understood that if you get that for casual fans, they are going to want to see stars, and you want to hide the stars, and you want to use the stars to hook them in. So if you look at something like a great example of that, I mean, you're right. CBS Sports did a wonderful job of that, but it reached its zenith with NBC Sports because everything was about Iverson, Reggie, Sunday, like the
Carmelo and
promos.
John Stockton. Yeah.
Exactly. The promos were geared toward individuals, and that was by design. NBA Inside Stuff was the exact same thing. It was just, here's a player, and let's learn more about this player and what they do and who they are. David Stern, Don Sperling, who led NBA Entertainment, told me that one of David Stern's mantras was that it's not what the public thinks about you, it's what they feel about you, or how they feel about you. So if you're the NBA and you're able to get people excited about your players, you have them do public service announcements, you get them on this show, NBA Inside Stuff, that is geared toward them, that basically is a 30-minute promotional package, that is going to do wonders to connect fans with your product. So yeah, I mean, you're right though. I mean, it's so funny to just read coverage now from back in the day, or look at promos, and it's always this. It's in the '80s. It's always the Celtics and the Lakers, and then it becomes all about personalities, and it was absolutely by design. And you're right, Major League Baseball, to me, I don't know why they continue to be so reluctant about that. It is, and I think that shows, that speaks volumes to Major League Baseball's reluctance to change, which I think is something the NBA has done a masterful job of. Pardon me, is that it adapts to the times. Major League Baseball is still stuck in the 1960s, and I'm speaking as someone who loves baseball and who loves watching a baseball game. But it's just that lack of I'm trying to think of the word, that lack of adaptability. It's switching over to in person. I don't understand that one bit. And you're absolutely right about that. It's baffling.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense, and it's not because of lack of star power either.
No,
it's just the people that are in charge that make the calls just not wanting to pull the trigger on that for whatever reason. They still think it's all about that team name.
Yeah, it is. And I mean, again, you look at, there's Mike Trout, there's Tatis. I mean, you have all these wonderful stars, and baseball doesn't know how to cater to bringing the stars out. And I don't know if it's just, I don't know. Your guess is as good as mine. But they've had troubles for years attracting, the younger demographic, I think, but also, a demographic that isn't, again, like straight white middle-aged guys. Like there's a real problem attracting, a more diverse demographic. And I've heard this story for 15 years, 20 years, but MLB doesn't seem to do anything about it. And I don't know. You can't float on tradition forever. And
whoever cracks that code is going to make a lot of money and make a lot of people happy. At the same time. At the same time. Now, one big thing that was definitely big with the NBA, like you talk about in your book, is the fashion and the music element. I kind of wanted the interviews you did with people that were involved in the culture aspect of it, whether it be music or fashion, kind of what was their take and their view on how things transitioned from the 80s to the 90s to even the early 2000s.
Yeah, well, I think what the big thing there is, rap becoming mainstream was such a big thing, because that was basically a fashion and musical element that the NBA was able to adopt. And, it was just a perfect marriage. And I write about this in the book. There's a whole chapter devoted to it. I think the players that came up, rap music was their thing. That it was not only what they listened to, but it was a lifestyle that they embraced, whether it was the clothes, sneakers, everything. And the NBA, again, like the NBA did a masterful job adapting to that. Like, okay, we're not going to fight this. David Stern did try to fight a little bit in the 2000s with the dress code and all that garbage, but back in like the late 80s, early 90s, the NBA was like, all right, you know what? Like, this is how it's going to go. We're just going to go with the wind of change. So you see this in a couple of things. First is the music that they use in, let's say, the videos. There's a lot of hip hop in those videos. I'm trying to think. There was in one of the earlier NBA videos. There's a rap called 13 Johnsons. I think it's in the '84 NBA wrap up video. Where they have this. It's a terrible rap. It really is. It's on YouTube. It needs to be heard to be believed. It's that bad. But that was the thing. They went hand in hand. And you know what it was too? It was the biggest thing here was Michael Jordan, because Michael Jordan was just this perfect avatar for 80s culture and 80s marketing. Because you could assign whatever you wanted to Michael Jordan. So if you were a hip hop guy, Michael Jordan was he was a fashion icon. Like the shoes were the thing. Yeah. Like that was one thing you could latch onto. If you were a parent, you could be like, you know what, that Michael Jordan, he's a fine young man. Like that's the one I want my daughter or my son to aspire to. If you were a basketball fan, like here's this guy flying through the air. Like he's a neon. And if you're an advertising executive, here's a guy. It's like Hubie Brown now.
One of the best to ever do. I
love Hubie Brown. Here's a guy who is 6'6", so he's not too tall. Okay, he's very good looking. He's young. He's poised. He's eloquent. He doesn't have any rough edges on him. He's not Charles Barkley. He's not an outspoken dude. He avoids politics. He was just a perfect vessel. So no matter who you were, you could fill whatever you wanted into Michael Jordan, and hip hop benefited from that. David Stern benefited from that. Nike benefited from that.
Oh, did they?
And it's just, I think with the whole NBA rap marriage, Jordan's a big part of it. Spike Lee's a big part of it. And also, and also MTV, because MTV set the culture. And if Yo MTV Raps is your number one rated program and rap becomes more mainstream and rich white people are dancing it up at the Hamptons, that bleeds into the arena. Yeah. But Russell Simmons in his memoir talks about that. Like he was at the Hamptons and like those people were dancing along to, I don't know, Rapper's Delight or White Lines or whatever. So yeah, it's just the culture caught up. And and also if the NBA is a youth culture, guess what? Rap is what the kids are and were into and still are. Wasn't rock and roll music. That's my parents' music. So it really was a matter of timing. It's a lot of this comes down to timing and luck. Because if Michael Jordan gets injured and Sam Bowie becomes the face of the NBA, or Hakeem Olajuwon, I know that's a different story. We're talking about a very different league and a very different course for the league.
Nah, very interesting points. You're absolutely right. You're spot on with that Michael Jordan, because you're right. Everything you could think of, he was more than capable of being that. Whether it's a spokesman, whether it's somebody to aspire to be as an athlete. If you want who you're going to pattern your game after, you can pattern your game after Michael. Who do you want to pattern yourself? How you handle yourself in society and carry yourself, Michael.
Exactly.
That definitely makes sense.
Yeah, no, and that's all in the it's in the book. No, I mean that's the thing. Michael Jordan, I think we talk about. I really do think that Michael Jordan is the most media savvy athlete ever, because I think he absolutely understood optics. He understood his impact, and he understood business. And he was. I mean, there's an anecdote in the story. And I'll tell you this because I think it's. I don't know. I think it's my favorite. One of my favorite anecdotes in the book.
Okay.
So this is like in 1995, 1996, when Jordan is back for his second run. He films a commercial for Nike, in Los Angeles, and it's done at the Forum. It's top secret. So he's there for there's only like a tight window to do it, like 3 hours, because he has to be back at the team hotel. So Jordan does this thing, films commercial. goes out of the forum. There's a mass of people waiting for him. Word got out. There's kids. There's everyone's there swarming. Michael, Michael, Michael. So he is there with he's there with a Nike representative, and Jordan begins like signing autographs, and there's not a lot of time. Like Nike has to get him back to the hotel like in 10, 15 minutes. Because like that's the contract, like it's very strict. He has to be back at the hotel. So he's signing, he's posing for photos, signing. So his handler's like, Michael, we got to go. 5 more minutes. Signing. Michael, we really have to go. Michael Jordan says, okay. Before he goes into the limo, he stands for like another 30 seconds and just sort of looks around. Then he hops back in the limousine. And the Nike executive says, did you forget something? What were you doing out there? And Jordan says, anytime a kid doesn't get my autograph, I want to make sure that I'm able to look him in the eye. So he was going through the crowd, trying to maintain eye contact so that one kid could get a moment with him.
Wow.
And I think that speaks to Michael Jordan's savvy as a business and as a brand. And he was the perfect person for David Stern in his quest to make the NBA into this sort of global, glittery business model. So yeah, I mean, I look at that moment as sort of Michael Jordan's as to why I think Michael Jordan is just the most savvy athlete of all time.
See, I was going to come back at you and say I think LeBron is, but that story kind of took the wind out my sails.
Yes. Oh, yeah. I love LeBron, but you know what? You might be right. I think because you know what it is with LeBron. I don't know if he has the universal appeal that Jordan has, because again, the politics isolates a lot of people. But he's been very smart to make that part of who he is, and that's also I think that's just how the world is swaying now. I think that's, what it is with Michael Jordan. Here's why I like LeBron, because I think LeBron is who he is. He's truly himself, and if he sees something, he's going to say something. He is active in that way. He has a social activism streak that Michael Jordan never did. But the attitude at that time wasn't as open to that. I think LeBron is perfect for what he does. I just think he's not to sound like a concerned citizen or like a mayoral type, but he's just an upstanding dude. Like, the things that he does off the court, what he's trying to do with his school in Akron, like it's amazing. And I think he has that component for activism and for community improvement that Jordan. I'm not saying Jordan never had it or didn't have it, but at that time it wouldn't have flown, because the 80s were the 80s and 90s were a very image conscious age, and that wouldn't have flown.
Yeah, no. I think my biggest thing that I always tell people all the time that blows my mind, and I always talk about the same two athletes, that's LeBron and Derek Jeter, is just that I think about the amount of pressure and expectations those guys had from high school all the way through their pro careers. And there's no skeletons. Like there's no scandal of LeBron has 4 babies' moms, or he was caught doing drugs, or to go from 17 to 37 years old, wherever he is now.
Yeah.
And really, you don't have any major scandal.
It's remarkable.
It's incredible to me. Yeah.
It's remarkable. I mean, here's the thing. Beyond that, he hasn't cracked. LeBron has been a legitimate celebrity since he was 15, 16 years old.
Yeah, pretty much.
And he's been under the spotlight for more than half of his life. And he is somebody who I could point to my daughter and say, that's someone, that's someone you can look up to. That's someone who's making a difference. That to me is absolutely remarkable, because there are so many tales of kids that, they get that taste of stardom or that taste of the spotlight when they're 16, 17, and they just crack. And it's completely understandable. But with LeBron, he is just, his mental toughness is amazing to me. With Jeter, see, Jeter to me, I almost feel like he's a robot. Like, I don't know
Yeah.
anything about him. I don't know what his beliefs are. I don't know what his passions are. All that I know is that all I know is that he was a Yankee. He was an overrated fielder, and he was, and that he was, he had a way with the ladies. That's all that I know. I don't know, but but also I don't think Jeter was as superlative a talent as LeBron.
Yeah, yeah, well, yeah. Talent wise, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I think I've heard a lot of people tell me too that to that robot point, they think his brand is super constructed. Like
Oh yeah.
the responses, how he deals. There's a reason why you don't see him out in the open doing things because his brand, his handlers have made it very clear. This is who you are. You have to maintain it, even in retirement.
Oh
You
yeah.
got to maintain this image.
Yeah. I remember this is funny. I remember when he was about to retire or was going to retire. Someone asked him what his 5 favorite movies were, and again, like movies are pretty cool currency. Like we open up, movies touch us, they move us. Like I'm sure you have your favorites, I have mine.
Yeah.
And if you ask us about them, like we can expand upon them, and we can be eloquent, and they'll define who we are. You'll get a sense of who we are if we talk about our favorite movies. When I tell you that his answers to those 5 favorite movies sounded like they were spit out of a computer. They were the blandest answers. It was like, does this guy like what? It was. Does he watch a movie? Does he know how a movie works? Like it was. But you're right. It's absolutely constructed, and yeah, I mean, it's absolutely by design. And I don't know. But yeah, but I mean, has anyone ever written like a great Derek Jeter profile? Or like gotten to the bottom of Derek Jeter?
Well,
Like
he won't
never.
let you in. He won't let you in.
Yeah.
The closest thing I've ever seen is when he was getting to the 3,000 hits. There was an HBO documentary, and even that was like the beginning scene. You see him walking into the kitchen to get coffee. Cut away cut away. We're at the ballpark.
Yeah.
Cut away.
Yeah.
2 or 3 at bats. Cut away. Telling his parents, "Thanks for coming to the game," and scene. All right. So did you eat?
Yeah. The most I know about Derek Jeter is when Mariah Carey wrote her autobiography, and the excerpt of his lovemaking ability started to circulate. That's the most I know about. That's the most revealing thing I've read about Derek Jeter in 25 years.
Yeah.
And I mean, and that. So yeah, and there's also, I mean, and Alan Siegel, a friend of mine who writes for The Ringer, years ago wrote a piece about Derek Jeter for Sports Illustrated about the media management and about how well constructed that is. And yeah, it's totally by design. But yeah, he's somebody I can't get behind because the beautiful part about Twitter now and social media and all the access we have is that we get a chance to know the players a little bit better.
Oh, absolutely.
And what I love about folks like Kevin Durant and Damian Lillard and LeBron is that I feel like on their Twitter feeds and Instagram, that you get a sense of who they are. And even if it is periodic or maybe it is calculated, I feel like I get a sense of these guys being themselves. And with Jordan, I'm sorry, with Derek Jeter and even Michael Jordan, there's a sense that there's still a mask, and we're never going to get past that mask. And hey, that's okay. I mean, I'm. They're not going to come to my barbecue. It's fine by me. So
yeah, that's going to be an interesting movie whenever it comes out. The Derek Jeter story. If it's not approved by him, because if it's approved by him, we already know what we're going to get.
Is there going to be a Derek Jeter story?
Oh, I don't. I mean, I would think so.
Yeah,
I haven't heard anything about it, but like I said, if he approves it, it's going to be very vanilla. If it's just people being able to take off the gloves and speak their minds and speak freely, it could be pretty entertaining.
Yeah, but I think here's the problem with that though. If you do that, he cuts you off, because I think there was a biography that came out several years ago by Ian O'Connor about Jeter, and I think one of his friends or part of his inner circle was on the record, and Jeets just like cut him off. Like it was like that was the end of it. So like
protect the brand, baby.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, hey, if that's how you want to operate, that's cool. But I don't know. I think I like the athletes that I like. I feel like I know them. I even if it's just a little taste.
Yeah,
I think that's cool. I think that's a cool thing. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But I don't know. I mean, it's the Derek Jeter story. If it ever comes to be, you're right. He's gonna prove every frame of film. It's
Yeah,
gonna be
absolutely.
it's gonna be as vanilla as vanilla can be, and it'll be 15 minutes long. So it'll just be it'll just be it'll be 15 minutes long. It'll just be clips of him, be like the catch and the throw to get Jeremy Giambi at the plate, the catch where he dives into the stands, the 3,000 hit, and that's it. Credits. So
now let's get back to the world of basketball.
sure.
Of course, being a diehard 80s and 90s basketball fan, I kind of wanted to ask you, who were some of your, besides Michael Jordan, some of the players, the teams that you really were excited about watching growing up in the NBA, and even some of the guys maybe currently?
Oh man, I'm happy to talk about that. Yeah, I mean, as a Knicks fan, I was a Patrick Ewing guy.
Okay.
I loved. It was just incredible for me to see a guy that big shooting from the outside. It was amazing to see him get away with 1,000 travels when he made that curl move into the paint,
into the middle of the lane. Yeah,
yeah. I think he took like 5 steps and it was never called. So I loved Ewing growing up. I was a Kevin McHale guy, not because of his politics, but because he just had I loved his post game. Like that was what I modeled my pickup game after him. Like a lot of
fairly carefully chosen words. I like that.
If you look at me, I'm not a baller in the traditional sense. But yeah, I modeled my half court pickup game after his stylings. So yeah, McHale, Ewing was a big guy. I'm trying to think who else. I liked watching Stockton Malone work. I thought the pick and roll with them was just like simple and just beautiful to watch. Jeff Hornacek was a guy I just thought was great because he was just so crafty and just corkscrew his body to get shots off. I really liked watching. Trying to think. I loved Iverson. I love watching Iverson play.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite players of all time.
Loved him because he was just a bulldog and just was never back down. And I just loved his spirit. I know it sounds really corny and poetic, but he was just like a warrior through and through, and I loved him for that. So those are some of the guys. I'm trying to think of others. Olajuwon. I mean, just the footwork.
He was amazing.
Someone that big, being that nimble, was incredible. But like now, I'm trying to think. Now, like Giannis is a freak. I mean, he
is.
I just someone that big who's that graceful and can just get to the ball, get to the rim at will is amazing. Steph Curry, I'm a big Steph Curry fan. I'm trying to think who else I liked. I love. I mean, we talked about Iverson just now. Russell Westbrook reminds me a lot of him.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, I can see the similarities.
I like Russ. Even though I just want him to slow down.
He never will.
I want him to slow down so bad, but I love him. I love watching him play because he reminds me of. Do you remember when you used to? Do you remember when you used to go when you were a kid and you go to a shoe store and you try a pair of new basketball sneakers, and you felt like you could run faster and jump higher? That's how Russell Westbrook plays. Russell Westbrook plays like those shoes, those shoes actually work for him, and he feels like he can jump higher and move faster. And I also like watching Joel Embiid play. I think he's just
guy can stay healthy. He is. Yeah, he has a
I love watching him play. So those are my guys. Like I mean, again, like I've said this before, but I don't know about you, but I just love, to me, being able to just sit back and watch a great game, like even a good game, a good NBA game, and just like with good announcers, and that's really all I need. Like there's something that I can pick out and enjoy from any basketball game. I mean, and that goes for anything, college, WNBA, anything. If there's a competitive basketball game, like I'm in. And
same
because I don't know. I just think these, you're looking at the best athletes in the world. You're looking at a combination of strategy and athletic skill. And I don't know, like it's just people who always talk about, I can't watch the NBA anymore. I almost feel like saying, like, are you watching these guys? Are you watching any game at any level. Like the players are doing things that are just amazing. It's just
Yeah.
it's I don't know. I don't know how you can I don't know how you can't watch someone like Giannis or Devin Booker or I don't know, just any like a Zach LaVine, just be like, whoa.
Yeah.
Like it's just
The athleticism's off the charts. Like
it's
you said,
crazy.
Joel Embiid is 7 feet tall and shoots 3-pointers like a Steph Curry. Like that
Yeah.
wasn't happening when we were 13, 14 years
No,
old.
that's the thing. Like,
Get your butt in the paint and don't you dare think about
yeah,
shooting a
that's
3-pointer.
the thing that's so cool now. It's like when I was like, yeah, when we grew when I was watching, the NBA in the '90s, like the big guy was in the post,
Yep.
and like that's what they did, and they dribble, they pound, 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 hook shot, up and under, drop step, and look, and I like that game. That's a game that I miss certain elements of that, but like
Same here.
you're not. I mean, you're not going to tell me that Giannis or Joel Embiid or Jokic, like you don't get a thrill watching those guys play because they're doing everything.
Yeah.
And even before then, do you remember like watching Dirk Nowitzki for the first time?
Yeah. And thinking, what's he doing? Why is he
Like,
so far away?
This is like what this he's shooting from 20 feet and he's driving to the basket. Now, what the hell's going on?
Yeah.
Like the game is evolving, and the game always evolves. And but there's always been this great, and I really believe that. I really think that anybody who's like the game today, I mean, I understand that because it's different and it's not what you're used to seeing, but there's still parts of the game that are great to watch. I mean, it's look, I'd rather a 115-108 game where the teams are taking a few too many 3-pointers than a 68-64 Heat Knicks game from 1997.
That's what I was thinking about. With PJ Brown and Larry Johnson going at it, 8 points apiece and 5 rebounds. What a battle!
Yeah, Jamal Mashburn looking gimpy and weird in that Heat's uniform. It was never a good look for him.
Yeah, no, it was not.
Yeah, I don't know. Like to me, there's always something fun and special about the games, and I think that's why I'll stick around. And you never know what's going to happen. Like in 5 years, we might be talking about somebody who's 6'1" and they're a post player.
Yeah. Yeah, I wonder sometimes if the post play is ever going to come back to what it used to be. I don't think so. I think that card has left the barn a long time ago. I think it's all about just have the versatility. I think we're going to see more and more players who are more and more athletic. You'll see a lot more Russell Westbrook, a lot more Zach LaVines. But I think the days, I mean, Shaq's a generational talent. I don't think I'm going to see another Shaq. A guy that's 7 feet tall that just throw the ball down in the post and he just dominates. That's how the game is played through him.
Well, yeah, but never say never because look, any coach. I mean, if a 7'3", like I don't know, if the next Chamberlain or Shaq or Abdul-Jabbar comes along, they will be a coach is going to make the most of them. But but you're right, they're generational talents. I just think right now you're looking. We're in an era where it's just outside oriented, and the players are learning that way. Like they're coming up learning to shoot threes. They're coming up learning to handle the ball. The international impact too is part of that as well. I mean, these kids learn everything. But but again, like if the next Shaq comes along, then it's a different story. If the next Chamberlain comes along, that's a different story. I don't know. But I mean, I'm curious what you think. Like, do you think if like let's say like the next I don't know, Shaq comes along, do you think the next Shaq is going to be like stepping to the outside, hoisting threes? Is he going to be dribbling the ball more, or do you think there's going to be like that? Hey, this guy's a load in the paint. He's going to score. He can score 50 any night. I don't know.
I think they'll do both. I think if you're a smart basketball coach, you'll tell that person, hey, we'll give you the ball in the paint. And you just turn around and ram it down their throats. Mm-hmm. But if they're double teaming you in the paint, making it hard, then you can step outside and you can shoot that 18-footer, that 20-footer. But I think any basketball coach worth their salt is going to say, get your butt in the paint. We'll get you the ball and just punish them.
Yeah, that's with Embiid. Like I kind of watching him play. And he did more of this season. I think he was a little too in love with the 3-point shot last year. And he seems to have learned that, okay, I can get my points in the paint, and if I have a size mismatch or if I'm single teamed here, like he has a really nice mid range game, and I think he's really learned to vary it up, and I think that's and that's what makes him so good is that he can shoot the 3-pointer, but he also can put it on the deck. He can call for the ball in the post. That might be the new model that we see. Like, all right, this guy's 7'2", but like he can do a little bit of everything, but he does one thing really, really well. And that might be where the game's going. And look, if it is, I have no problem with that.
Yeah, no, same here. I definitely do not have the get off my lawn mentality, because you can't with sports because they're always changing. So I mean,
it is like, I don't know. I mean, at some point, look, all these people that complain about back in my day. Well, there was a generation before they were complaining about something. Back in my day, George Mikan was the guy. Like back in my day, milk was 50 cents a gallon. I don't know. You're right. I think life is look, sports at their heart are a pleasure. Like, you get to sit back, just it's natural drama. You don't have to think about it. You just let the game just wash over you.
Yep.
There's so much shit that's in this world that's happening right now. It is a pleasure to sit down and watch a game.
Yeah.
Why add negativity to it? Like, I don't know. I mean, if you're that annoyed with something, like, I don't know, read my book.
That's something that the pandemic definitely taught me, was that I knew sports was important to me, but how important they were when they were gone, man, it was tough to not have that escape. Yeah, because I mean, you have that, you watch the news, death, destruction, end of the world. Yeah, you know what? The Rams play at 4:00, or you know what? I can watch I'm in the DC area. I'm gonna watch the Wizards game at 7:30. You didn't have that, so it was like, news or actual human interaction with my family. Where are my sports?
I mean, I'm trying to think what I did was, I read a shit ton of books. Like, I mean, it's funny. Like, after writing a book, 300+ page book, you would think like, well, I don't want to read. I want to get away from books. It's funny. I found myself reading a lot of books, a lot of sports books, kind of like fill the void. And I don't know. I mean, it was weird to not have like that. That
escape
release
was gone. Yeah. I did a lot of YouTube old games, just finding old NBA games, old college football stuff that I could find on YouTube. I did a lot of that until
that's the beauty of it. Like, I can't imagine if we had that vacancy like in the 90s. Like, what would we have done? We would have had to rely. We would have had to rely on maybe cable networks to replay old games, but now there's a glut of like old classic sports clips and games and I don't know, like, I mean, so it really wasn't as bad as it really wasn't that bad, but I mean, I miss the immediacy. Like, I miss like like this game is on and like what's gonna, like, here's the real life drama. That was not great. And you're right. There wasn't that diversion, which is why I think, like, when The Last Dance came on. That was it.
I was super excited about that.
Everyone
Jordan hater.
No, I mean, it's funny. That's something I haven't watched that yet, because the book was coming out. Yeah, the book was coming out, and it's like, well, I don't want to. I was afraid to kind of be like, oh, you know what? Like, what did I miss? What did I? So I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna wait a little bit to watch Jordan and enjoy, was it 10 parts of that? Now it's on Netflix, so like
it's good. It was good.
Yeah, I am all for, look, I'm a sports nostalgist, so like I'm all for that, and that's right. Like, when I became a basketball fan, so like it checks every box. And now that the book is has a few months behind it, I think I'm ready to watch it and see the Knicks' heart get torn out.
Yeah, that was a tough part for me.
One more time.
that rekindled a lot of the old hatred. Well, hey, Pete, thank you so much for coming on the show, man. I really appreciate it. We could talk forever, man.
Yeah,
I know you have some great stories. I definitely know I'm gonna have to go to Borders, which is still open around my area.
Wait, Borders?
Yeah.
Wait. Borders, books, and music. You have a Borders?
Yes, I do.
Wait, wait, an actual Borders store that's run by Borders management?
I don't know if they're run by Borders management, but that's what it is. It's not BAM. It is actual Borders. I just drove by there again today and was like, man, I haven't been in there in like 20 years, I feel like.
Well, I thought Borders went bankrupt and they closed all the stores.
It's like that last Blockbuster in Oregon, I guess, then. Because I slowed
Hey,
down. I was like, "Is this Books a Million?" And I read the marquee and was like, "No, it definitely says Borders, bro."
that I mean, that is incredible. Because I worked at two Borders, for a few years, and like, yeah, I love Borders, and I was heartbroken when the store closed. Like, I may have to go down and check that out, because I was a Borders guy. I loved
Yeah, unless it's
Borders.
privately owned, and somehow they're able to get away with having the names. I just knew it was Books a Million, but it's not. I was like, "Oh,
Well,
okay."
I mean, if it's not a time warp into 2005, yeah, feel free to buy the book there.
I'm
Like,
gonna
it's
drive by tomorrow. It's gonna be a Dunkin' Donuts. What was that?
probably.
Was the sun and the humidity warping my mind?
Well, look, you know what? If wherever books are sold, yeah, if you can pick it up, or your listeners or viewers want to pick it up, that'd be great. Yeah, it's no, I think it's a great book for any basketball fan, or any fan of just, pop culture history, social history, just plain old history. It kind of has a little bit of everything. So yeah.
Yeah, I definitely want to read some of the stories that some of the people share with you that were there at the ground level of the NBA, because I'm sure they have some incredible stuff they want to share,
Oh,
especially the stuff about Stern. I'm interested in that.
yeah, it's he unfortunately he declined to talk to me before his death, but yeah, I was able to get a few people sort of in his inner circle to talk with me about him, and yeah, he's I won't give too much away, but he's quite the character. He's somebody who is kind of enigmatic, and but just, I think a father figure more than anything to a lot of people. Not like everybody, but yeah, just an interesting dude. So I'll leave it at that.
Cool, cool. Well, one thing I do on my show is I never let any guests leave without giving them the opportunity to let people know where they can follow you on social media, find your work. So
Oh,
before we close up the show, at this time, the floor is yours.
appreciate that, Joe. Yeah, I'm my bread and butter is kind of Twitter. I'm at Pete Croatto, PETECROA, two T's as in Thomas O, at Pete Croatto. That's where I post a lot of my work. I'm writing pretty constantly now, so there's always something on there, and that's where I have my musings on various things. And if you can put up with that and the more than occasional book promotional post, I think it's worth your time. But yeah, I mean, if you want to buy the book, again, you can buy it from pretty much any brick and mortar retailer, any online retailer. I think Amazon has it on sale for like $9.50 or something. So if money's tight, that's a good way to get it. You can also get it from your local library. Couple of things I'll add: if you buy a copy of the hardcover, I'm happy to send you a signed book plate. Just reach out to me through social media accounts, through Twitter. Happy to mail one free of charge. You can also buy autographed copies at Odyssey Bookstore in Ithaca. I've partnered with them for the past several months. They're a great local indie store, wonderful selection, great staff. You can reach them at odysseybookstore.com, ODYSSEY bookstore.com. And yeah, they're taking orders, and I think it's $5 extra to have it shipped anywhere. Just pay the regular price, and I will sign it however you want it. So yeah, it's pretty straightforward.
Awesome, awesome. Well, great conversation. And again, thanks so much for giving me some of your time to talk about the NBA. Definitely enjoyed it.
Joe, it's my pleasure. This is a lot of fun. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely, sir. I want to thank Pete for his time and for joining me on the show. Definitely a good time. Make sure you go out and purchase that book. Like Pete said, so many different outlets. No excuse for you not to be able to get that. If you're not a big reader like me, audiobook is available as well. And if you enjoyed this program, I got something for you. You need to go to 19mediagroup.com and check out the rest of the program we have there. Some great podcasts, YouTube shows, some of the best content creators across the country. You definitely want to make sure you go to 19mediagroup.com. A lot of things cooking. We are all over these content creation streets. As always, thank you so much for checking me out and joining me on Just Through with Joe. I'll be back with a brand new show. Be safe. Peace.